Hey, water's not wet. My name is Funny Man, and welcome to another episode of Crashout on the Cashout. This is the series where we load up some Cashout, pick a topic that's going on inside or outside the finals, have a discussion about it, and yell at anybody that interrupts our discussion by killing us in the game. Stay in school, kids. Now, there's been some pretty big news in the realm of gaming this past week with the announcement from Sony that as of 2028, they will no longer be making any physical discs for their games. And to that I say, thank you, Sony, for making my decision on what console to buy next so fucking easy. Neither of them. The only reason, in my opinion, to buy a console nowadays is because of the convenience alongside with the physical discs. But if you get rid of the physical discs, there's no reason for me personally to ever go back to console, period. Not that I was even really planning on going back to a console at any point, but this just kind of furthers my decision to always stay on PC from now on. Let's face it, why the hell would I bother buying a slightly cheaper yet infinitely shittier PC that I'm going to have to completely replace in 6 to 7 years when they decide to just make another one and totally obsolete the last one? Okay, side note, my teammates' names are Autism Prime and Dragonborn, and you just got seen in the nick of time to go ahead and get included in the worst player names of Season 10, buddies. Congratulations. PlayStation was never really my main console anyway, at least it hasn't been since I was a small child. But with this announcement coming out, there's also now rumors that Xbox's next console, Project Helix, is going to end up doing the same thing, and we're just gonna never have physical discs for our games again after this generation. Now, I don't think I have to be the one to tell you why this fucking sucks, okay? For starters, console games will forever be more expensive now because of this change. When you only have one place to shop, your experience and the prices always get shittier. The reason antitrust laws are a thing is that competition is good for not only business, but it's good for the consumer. Okay, Mr. Duck Shield does not want me talking today, goddamn. You know, we have antitrust laws for a fucking reason, okay? When one single company gets too much power in a sector or has complete control over a single market, it leads to infinitely worse outcomes for everybody, except the shareholders. But, you know, f the shareholders. Bruh, the end of the season is just the worst time to play this fucking game, dude. Now, someone's probably gonna come out there with a gotcha at me and be like,
Funny, you hate Monopoly so much, but you play on Steam?
Hypocrite.
No, Steam isn't a monopoly, they just have the best product, but we'll talk about that in a bit. But on console, the only options that you have are the actual platform's marketplace. And the bitch claw strikes again. Can we please do something about this next season, dude? You know, there's no way for you to get a digital game for the Xbox unless you buy it from Xbox. There's no way for you to get a digital game for the PlayStation unless you buy it from PlayStation. But right now, because you can have physical discs on the PS5 and the Series X, you can go to GameStop and get a game there, or you can go to Walmart and get a physical game there, or Best Buy, or wherever the fuck you want to get a physical game from. Let's say your friend has a copy of like GTA 5 on disc that you want to go ahead and play, but you don't have the money for it. You could borrow it from your friend, play the game, and then just give it back to him later. You know, and not to mention that with digital copies of your games, you don't really own them either. And some people are going to be like,
but Funny, I totally still own them. When I buy them digital, they're in my account.
And it's not really the same thing though. When you buy a game digitally, you're not purchasing the game itself, you're purchasing a license to play that game. That license, according to pretty much every single console's EULA, can be revoked at any fucking time. So let's just use an example. You absolutely waffle stomp someone in a game of Rainbow Six Siege. They get pretty pissed off, they hack your account, and then your account gets mass reported because it's being hacked on. Those reports get taken seriously at all, and you go ahead and get banned off of Rainbow Six. You can't play Rainbow Six on that account anymore. Or worst case scenario, let's say somehow they report you to PlayStation and PlayStation decides, yep, we're just going to go ahead and ban your account there, and your whole PlayStation Network account gets banned. Then you lose access to all the games that you've purchased because someone decided to get you banned from hacking in one single game. And look, that specific scenario is kind of like a fringe scenario, I get it, but the fact of the matter remains that you can very well lose access to digitally purchased games at any given time because you don't physically have a copy of it. Especially when it comes to like movies too, Sony is infamous for just removing your access to movies that you've purchased because their licenses went into trouble, and then you're just absolutely f***ed even if you fully purchased a copy of a movie digitally. You know, and as a matter of fact, PlayStation yoinked a bunch of shit that people had purchased off their marketplace right after they made this announcement that they're getting away from discs. Wow, that was fucking horrible. That's what I get for not playing this game in 5 days. Not only is your ownership of games fucked, but your backlog of games that you already owned is also fucked. You know, PlayStation has always kind of sucked when it came to backwards compatibility. I've got a garage full of PS2 games that I can't play despite having a brand new fucking space station of a PlayStation console, and yet all of my 360 games, I could pop in my Series X at any given time and replay any of those games with even some performance upgrades because of their FPS boost and other shit that they've done to make backwards compatibility a big selling point of the Xbox. And because of this announcement, you can guarantee that there will be no disk drive on the PlayStation 6, even as an add-on purchase. So yeah, the past 2 generations of backwards compatibility that PlayStation has kind of had are basically over. Oh, and as if the fucking cancellation of physical media wasn't bad enough, they're also considering price hikes for PlayStation Plus. So even if you were someone that genuinely just did not care about the physical media part of things and just wanted to use the subscription service on PlayStation to play your games, you're now getting boned there too because they're going to make that more expensive. So this whole scenario for people that play on PlayStation has just been an absolute fucking loss. You know, they're basically just hopping on and telling everybody, yeah, so you don't get to choose where you buy your games no more. And if you do want to buy the games from us, you're going to pay even more for them because we just decided you could go fuck yourself. And it's basically a lose-lose for every gamer, no matter which side of the coin you're on. Then after they just casually announced that they were going to price fuck everybody this next console generation, they then dipped off of social media a couple days just to ignore the backlash. Which, speaking of, that backlash has been bad. Every single big gaming YouTuber is talking about how bad this is. Twitter, Reddit, YouTube, basically every social media is ablaze with people that are pissed off about this, among a small handful of Sony bootlickers that are just like,
whatever, just buy the digital games anyway.
which, look, shilling for the multi-billion-dollar company isn't cool, bro. They're not gonna let you crack. But I think the worst part about all of this is that they pissed off the Spider-Man fans. Do you know how colossally bad you have to fuck up for the Spider-Man fans to get pissed off? You have to do so fucking bad to get them in a tizzy. You know, and the kind of shitty part about all this is that Xbox isn't capitalizing on this at all. Like, you know how when the Xbox One got released and they were like, oh yeah, no, there's gonna be all this DRM bullshit and, you know, there's no more used games. And Sony within like an hour was like, hey, this is how you play a used game on PlayStation. You put the disc in the console. You know, Xbox isn't doing fucking anything like this to kind of clap back. And they really need to, considering how badly they've been performing for the past like 5 years. You know, and not only are they not clapping back at all, but there's rumors that they're even going to be doing this digital only shit too. So we're basically in a situation where the two big giants who have the power to enact positive change and really bring competition back to the console market are basically just colluding with each other to do shitty shit. Xbox earned back the smallest amount of good faith possible when they lowered the price of Game Pass again to kind of combat all the people that left when they hiked it to $30 a month. You know, if you're a real COD fanboy, it does kind of suck that you can't get the brand new game on release on Game Pass anymore. But like, you had no problem buying it every year for fucking decades anyway. I have a really hard time believing that you all of a sudden really don't like buying a brand new game every year, considering that you did it for, I don't know, how long has Call of Duty been coming out for? Now, there have also been some rumors that Project Helix is going to be able to access the Steam store as well, so you will be able to play your Steam library as well as the Xbox game library, so that would kind of even the score with this a little bit. And they are bringing back Gears of War as an Xbox exclusive, and they're apparently gunning it for the next mainline Halo game to get released. But after the absolute fucking brain-dead decision to release Halo on a PlayStation, personal opinion is that the console war was cringe as fuck, but it was necessary for the good of the consumer. As I said earlier, competition is what makes good products for the consumer. Do I have Truce on my team? Because this guy is cooking with the MGL. Ooh, I killed Mr. Meeseeks. The PS2 versus the Xbox and the Xbox 360 versus the PS3 were the two best generations of console gaming ever, in my opinion. PS2 was better than the original Xbox for sure, despite the fact that it didn't have quite as good hardware compared to the original Xbox. Just the lineup of games that was released during that generation was legendary, to say the least. The Ratchet and Clank original trilogy, the original Sly Cooper trilogy, Jak and Daxter, Final Fantasy X. Like, there were so many just immaculate games released for the PS2 that you can't even count them all, honestly. Now, the Xbox 360 did kind of come back hard and clap the shit out of the PS3. Halo 3, Halo Reach, Halo 4, I don't care what any of the haters say, Halo 4 was still a good game. You know, the online multiplayer component of the 360 was just vastly superior to the PS3's. Not to mention there was a little month of time where if you played on PlayStation, you had no PSN because it got hacked to shit. I don't know if anybody remembers that. That whole debacle happened really shortly after I got my Xbox 360 for my birthday, and I will say I did my fair share of laughing at my PlayStation having friends when, you know, they couldn't play for a month. And then Xbox completely shat the bed again with the Xbox One, and the PS4 took over for a generation, even though the PS4 had no backwards compatibility with the PS3, which should have been the easiest fucking layup ever. There's still just countless games that were lost to the PS3 that have never been remastered and never been played again because they just don't have any care for backwards compatibility for their shit. Like, in my eyes, at least, it's a completely fucking missed opportunity to not have that emphasis on backwards compatibility and continuing to sell your old games, because there's a huge market of people that want to play those PS3 games still. Like I said, I have a garage full of PS2 games that I would love to be able to play, but I can't because my PS2 stopped working years ago, and the PS5's only option for you to play old games is to subscribe to their fucking streaming service and stream them. Like, what kind of shit is that? If I'm just being completely honest here too, the Xbox Series X and the PS5 have both been huge letdowns for me. The Series X was still my choice of console purely for the social aspect of things. All of my online friends that I made playing games are still on Xbox. Plus, at the time that the Xbox Series X was coming out, Game Pass was still like the best deal in the business at the time. I still bought a PS5, of course, eventually, but the reason I bought a PS5 was so that I could get single player games for it, and so that I could just hop on the PlayStation when I wanted to be left alone. Right? You know, all of us go through phases where we're just like, hey, I just want to game in peace. I don't want to talk to nobody. I just want to play this, zone out, and enjoy myself. And that's what I used PlayStation for primarily. Ghost of Tsushima, Ratchet and Clank Rift Apart, Jedi Survivor, all of these games I got on the PlayStation so that I could just be left alone while I play them. But, you know, with the exception of Ghost of Tsushima and Ratchet and Clank, I could have just as easily bought those games on Xbox. So, in all honesty, really this whole debacle has just reinforced the fact that if you don't already have a PC, you should just go get a PC. On the PC, you have multiple storefronts to choose from. You're not just hard locked into one or the other. Epic Games, Steam, GOG, the big three are all out there and they're very well known. Hell, Epic Games gives you free games every week, and sure, a lot of them are kind of, you know, cheap indie titles, but fact of the matter is that free games are free games. You know, you could eventually end up playing them and having a great time. You know, all the publishers have their own game store, minus PlayStation, of course, because they just refuse to cooperate with PC anymore, I guess. You know, you also have third-party key vendors like G2A that you can just get stacks on top of stacks of Steam keys for cheap as hell. You know, and speaking of Steam, the sales on Steam are kind of crazy, yo. I've been playing on PC for just about 2 years at this point, and I've gotten 66 games in my Steam library since I started playing. And of those 66 games, I have paid full price for 5 of them. Arc Raiders, Battlefield 6, Marathon, Helldivers, and Rocksmith. So if you really don't have a whole lot of money to be spending on games, PC is your best place to be, honestly. Also, if we're talking game preservation is also way more possible on PC now. You know, emulating your old console games is a very real possibility if you're a little tech savvy. Personally, I'm not really good with emulators and whatnot, so I leave that in the hands of my much more capable friends. But specifically if you buy games on GOG sells games that you can play without a launcher. So realistically, if you wanted to, you could take a game that you bought on GOG, burn it to a DVD, and physically preserve your PC games by doing that. As far as continuing to own your games go, as far as I know, Steam has never just yoinked people's shit out of their libraries that they've bought, unless potentially like a publisher decided to yank the game anyway. And as far as I know, Steam doesn't just yoink your ability to re-download games that you've purchased, unless the devs or the publisher directly pull their game from storefronts, you know, in which case Steam doesn't really have a choice. But even then, I still think you can re-download the game as long as you've already bought it. I'm sure someone will tell me I'm wrong in the comments, but that's the opinion I'm going with at the moment. On top of all that, your experience with a PC is just way better than it is on a console anyway. Even though I've been a controller player for my whole life, it only took me about 3 months to get comfortable on mouse and keyboard. And part of that was because I kept going back to controller because I was getting frustrated. That, and I didn't really dial in my settings on mouse and keyboard for a while, so part of that learning curve was user error on my end. If you're a frame rate whore like myself, you're also way better off on PC because uncapped frame rates. One of the biggest reasons that it's taken me this long to finally play Red Dead Redemption 2 is because I cannot stand a game locked to 30 frames per second, and that's just another thing that we'll talk about with GTA 6. On modern hardware, I really don't see any fucking reason for a game to be hard locked to 30 FPS. You're telling me that the Series X and the PS5 don't have the power to run it at 60? Seriously? Look, even with my rig, I can't crank Red Dead 2 to 4K 120 FPS. I would probably need a goddamn spaceship for that. But on medium-high settings at 1440p, I can still get a steady 120 on my system. And I've only got a 4060, you know? A lot of people say that the 4060 is just a piece of shit graphics card, but hey, this piece of shit graphics card has been serving me very well. Oh, and then another thing too is that you don't have to pay for multiplayer access when you play on PC. I mean, if you're playing an MMO or something, sure, you have to pay for that, but that's the game itself that you have to pay for, not just for the privilege of playing any multiplayer game that you've purchased. You know, I know that that's a hidden cost that a lot of console players really don't like thinking about, but when you have to pay for the online multiplayer access, that drastically increases your cost to play video games every month. Because let's do some math real quick, okay? Let's say you bought the Series X when it first came out for $500 and you didn't get scalped for it. So that's $500 plus $240 a year for Game Pass, and after 6 years, you've spent close to $2,000 just to play your Xbox, and that's not even including replacing your controller, which absolutely has fucking stick drift by now. Or if you've been a fucking moron like me and bought more Elite controllers than you can count, you know, add in another like $600-800 for all of those that you've had to replace over the years. And to be honest, in terms of my PC, this PC that I'm playing on right now cost me $1,200 when I bought it a little over 2 years ago. So between my peripherals, the Logitech G915 keyboard and the 502X mouse, you know, I've spent roughly about $1,500 on this PC in total. But, you know, gaming is not the only thing that I do with this PC. You know, I do my schoolwork on it. I make my videos on it. The only reason you guys are even watching this video is because I had this PC and I was able to put it together. I never had a gaming PC before. I never even had a really good computer myself before. So the only reason I really even have a channel at all is because I finally bought this PC and said, fuck it, time to just hurl myself into what I want to do. And even though the PC is more expensive on the upfront end, a lot of people are like, but I'm going to have to upgrade it down the line. You don't have to upgrade your PC nearly as much as you think you do. Like I said, I'm running a 4060. This graphics card is demonized to hell and back for whatever fucking reason, but it serves me just fine. And even if I wasn't using a 4060, there are still a decent amount of people that are gaming on a GTX 1080 Ti. That graphics card is like 15 years old, probably even more. Sure, the GPU probably sounds like a fucking lawnmower when you start it up at this point, but it's still running. How many of us dealt with Xboxes or PlayStations that sounded like fucking chainsaws when we used them, and we still played them every goddamn day until they burnt out? So if we're being honest here, I blame GTA 6 for kicking all of this shit off. Rockstar probably knew that they weren't going to put GTA on a disc for a long time. The executives at PlayStation probably knew for a long time as well that GTA wasn't going to come out on a disc. And they probably just decided that, well, since GTA is not going to come out on a disc and it's the biggest game like of all time, we'll just go ahead and decide to not put our shit on discs anymore either, because hey, if they can get away with it, certainly we can. And look, if I'm being entirely honest here, I really don't give a fuck about GTA 6. I haven't cared about Grand Theft Auto since I was in high school, okay? When you're a high schooler, GTA is cool. It's like, hey, let me ride around and steal cars and go to the strip club and get some titties in my face and shoot guns and have boats and all that crap. And it's like, yeah, it's cool when you're in high school, but I'm a fucking adult now. I've seen GTA re-released on how many fucking consoles since it originally came out when I was in middle school, and I watched them turn GTA Online from, oh hey, just play Grand Theft Auto but online with your friends, into, hey, do heists and go to the casino and buy shark cards. You know, the GTA Online heists were cool, but online eventually turned into a pay to keep up simulator, especially if you joined the game late. Like, it has no allure to me anymore. Not only that, but they're locking a bunch of playable shit behind the $100 version of the game, and they're not going to be releasing it on PC for a while. So even if I wanted to play GTA 6, I really couldn't, because after my whole spiel I just gave you now, you know damn well I'm not dealing with a frame-locked 30 FPS game in the year of our Lord 2026. So yeah, all in all, GTA 6 releasing with no disc was the canary in the coal mine to the announcement of the death of physical media. They are absolutely pushing us in a direction where we will own nothing and we will be happy. And as much as part of me wanted to just suck it up and buy Ghost of Yote to play on PlayStation since they canceled the PC port, I don't even want to do that anymore, because Sony has really killed any chance they had of me ever wanting to spend money on or in their ecosystem ever again. And look, I'm not encouraging this by any means, so don't take my words as anything they aren't, but I firmly believe that if purchase isn't ownership, piracy isn't theft. But anywho, that is going to go ahead and wrap it up for today's episode of Crashout on the Cashout. Thank you guys so much for watching. Be sure to leave a like and subscribe if you haven't already for more finals content. Say what's up down in the comments and let me know. What do you think of the whole GTA 6 no disc debacle? And what do you think of Sony deciding to get rid of discs starting in 2028? Big shout out to our comedy club members. It's your boy Jesse011, Fatal Sky 09 Boom 32, Layla Bell 1029, Real Call Me Crop, B Boop, Osama Live, and Fatso Am, who got 2-day early access to this video by being members of the Comedy Club. If you're enjoying the channel and you'd like to help support us further, consider becoming a member of the Comedy Club down below, and I will see you all in the next episode. Bye-bye.